University Raipur and postdoctoral from DST Serve New Delhi. She has teaching experience of 14 years, adding to her credit 70 research and review publication in national and international journals of repute. Ma'am has several national and international book publication. She is lifetime member of various professional organizations like APTI, IPGA, Shakti Raipur. With these words, I request ma'am to deliver her deliberation. Please, ma'am.
पॉइंटर नहीं काम कर रहा लाइट आ रही पॉइंटर
Good afternoon, everyone. Moving ahead with the post-lunch session, we are going to have a demonstration on the particle size and zeta sizer analyzer, the instrument which is available in our institute. The topic for my demonstration is principle and mechanism of particle size and zeta potential working of light sizer 500. This light sizer 500 is the instrument which is available in our sophisticated instrument room. This is the image of the instrument. The content of my presentation are: what is particle size, what is the principle behind determining the particle size, how to interpret the particle size of any sample, zeta potential, what are the protocols to be maintained for zeta potential determination, and last is the interpretation. Starting with the particle size. But before moving ahead, I would like to know from the audience, what is the need to determine the particle size? Can anyone respond? What is the necessity of determining particle size? Why this is required? We all are from pharmacy background. We work on micro and nano-sized particles, and these particles are to be administered in our body by various routes of administration. So depending on the route of administration, whether it is oral, parenteral, topical, it is necessary to have a specific range of size. So that is the reason why we have to determine the particle size of any of the sample. And one more thing here I would like to add is that it would be better if the size of sample which is to be determined is in liquid state. Solid sample का size determine करना it is quite difficult, impossible नहीं होता है, हो जाता है. But what we have to do is we have to convert our sample into liquid preparation, that too in dilute form. Concentrated solution makes a lot of problem in determining the size. So we have to make our sample dilute, that too in liquid form, and then we have to run on the machine. Before moving further, I would like to tell you one more thing, that what is the unit of particle size? Most of the time we are research scholar, we pursue MPharm, we do PhD, but we do not know that what is the unit of particle size. So particle size is divided into two units. First is micrometer and second is nanometer. If your particles are in micro size, then we call it micrometer. And if our particles are in nano size, then we call it nanometers. So starting with the particle size, what actually is the size? Generally we have the particles which are spherical or sphere in shape, and their size is determined through diameter. So one thing or one word which we have to learn from this slide is diameter, that the size of particle is measured in terms of diameter. And if the particle is not spherical, then we have to convert it in any suitable form. Like there are various forms, ring, prism, pyramid. We have to make it in the nearby form which is close to sphere, and then we have to work on it. In our BPharm course syllabus, we have studied about various methods for determining particle size. In this demonstration, I will not be dealing with various methods. I will just focus on one of the word which is called particle size distribution. Whenever we prepare a sample, we do not have a single particle. There are a number of particles which can be hundreds, thousands or millions. When these particles coalesce or aggregates, they cause or produce a distribution which is called particle size distribution, and the average of that particle size distribution is calculated in the form of nanometer or micrometer. This is the slide which shows that what is the significance of particle size distribution. The first point says that while preparing any suitable formulation, the physical and chemical properties of API are important, and that properties can be understood through the particle size of the sample. Second is the colloidal behavior. Whether our particle is following which behavior, it is rheological, non-rheological, what type of colloidal suspension it is, that is also a part of the significance of particle size. And the representation of particle size distribution is generally done in the form of histogram, wherein the hundreds of particles are plotted graphically to get the exact match of the size. Coming to the principle of particle size. As per we are in pharmacy, when we will upgrade our knowledge, the basic thing which we would want to know is that what is the principle for determining particle size. So there is an answer in one line. The basic principle is dynamic light scattering. Dynamic light scattering means we have to take a sample in a suitable cuvette which can be made up of glass, quartz or any disposable. Light will be passed through that sample and that light is called dynamic light. The particles will be scattered after crossing that light and they will be separated in various ranges. Larger particle will separate in one area and the smaller particle will separate in another area. Based on their separation, once they get equilibrized, we get the results in the software in our computer monitor that what is the size that our particles have. This dynamic light scattering is also known as photon correlation spectroscopy. This is just for our knowledge that if someone says, have you ever heard about photon correlation spectroscopy, then we should be prepared that yes, it simply means dynamic light scattering. These are the synonyms. The third name of dynamic light scattering is quasi-electric light scanning. These are all the basic or general principles for determining the particle size. Now, this is the slide which shows that what is the difference between dynamic and static light. In the diagram, this is the diagram in which we have run our sample into the machine. After running the sample, if we get the straight line, it means our particles having no impact on the light through which they are scattered, and that will be called static light. But if we have prepared the sample correctly and if it has number of particles and we have placed our cuvette in suitable position and the light when it passes, we will get a zigzag graph which is called dynamic light scattering, and after the equilibrium only we will get the result. So the basic principle is dynamic light scattering, and the graph is plotted between intensity of light and the time taken to achieve the equilibrium. These are the components of the machine which we are having in our sophisticated instrument. After the theoretical part of the demonstration, you all will move towards that instrument lab. I will show you the machine and we will run two samples. One for determining the particle size and another for determining the zeta potential of sample. So the components are, first is a laser light through which our sample will pass. Second is the cell which is called a cuvette in which we will place our sample. Third is the detector which will detect the responses. Fourth is the attenuator which is used to maintain the equilibrium in the system. Last is correlator and the computer. The output of the result will be generated through the computer system. This is the mechanism that how particle size is determined. In this slide, step-by-step diagrammatic representation is shown. First, particles move due to Brownian motion. After the Brownian motion, fluctuation occurs due to the light which is passed through the sample. After the fluctuation, translation diffusion coefficient is generated, which leads to the application of Stokes-Einstein equation. This Stokes-Einstein equation finally leads to hydrodynamic diameter, which is the result of particle size. When I will show you the screen in the computer, in the screen you will see all these parameters, but our focus should be on this part, hydrodynamic part. This is the region in which the particle size will be displayed in nanometer. And there are various methods for determining particle size. Like our machine tells us directly size in nanometer. In most of the machine, we do not get the direct output. Then we have to apply the algorithm to convert them into the nanometer or micrometer. But as per our machine is concerned, we'll get the result directly into nanometer, and that too under the heading of hydrodynamic diameter. As I told earlier that particles are in Brownian motion when kept in machine. So what actually is Brownian motion? Brownian motion was simply given by a scientist who is known as Brownian was his name, and he discovered that when we place any particle in fluid or a solvent, what happens? The particles will disperse, they'll segregate and move randomly. That random movement of particles is called the Brownian motion. After this random motion only, equilibrium will be achieved and the results will be generated. Next is the point that which equation is followed for calculation of particle size. So the equation which is mainly responsible for determining the particle size is called Stokes-Einstein equation, and this equation is applicable for the indirect methods for determining particle size. If we are working on direct method, there is no need to run readings into our sample or put the values in this equation. We'll directly get the output. But if we are working on any such machine or instrument where we get the results in indirect way, either in the form of readings of 3 or 4 sample or 3-4 parameters, then we have to put them in this formula and then the particle size will be calculated. This is the graph which shows the differentiation between large particles and small particles. In our sample, we will be having both types of particles. Some particles will be large and some particles will be small. How these particles respond with the light intensity along with their time, this is the graphical representation. The smaller the particle, more zigzag graph will be getting. But if the particle is large, it will get straight or smooth graph which will move ahead. But it is better to have the particles of smaller size for proper disintegration and dissolution into our body. Again, this is the graph which shows at the right side, there is a graph which shows on the basis of intensity and time between larger and smaller particles. Larger particles will have size in higher ranges, above 100 nanometer, above 200 nanometer. But if our particles are small, we'll get size range up to 100 or under 100 nanometer. These are the methods in which particle size can be denoted. 3 ways are there. First is in terms of intensity, second is in terms of volume, and the last is in terms of number distribution. Now, if we are having bulk of particles, we have to work on particle size distribution. How this size distribution is expressed? So there are 2 methods for that. First is number distribution and second is distribution by the weight. This is the histogram which I told earlier that when we are having numerous particles, a histogram is plotted on the basis of the bifurcation of the size ranges. What is the effect of particle size on our formulation? So particle size mainly influence the dissolution. Secondly, it influences the flow property of our formulation. And lastly, it influences the stability of any dispersion system. Moving ahead towards the second parameter, which is your zeta potential. This is the diagram which shows that any particle has charges in it. It can be cationic, anionic or neutral, but if it is a particle, it will be having some sort of charges. So what is zeta potential? It is the overall charge of a particle which is acquired in particular medium. Again, the here point which is to be noted is that it is necessary to have a suitable medium in which we have to keep our sample, and then only it will have the charges. Second is the line that it is the potential at the slipping plane. Means once we pour our sample into the liquid, it will move on. Once it will acquire the equilibrium, it will get stabilized. That is called the slipping plane. It is denoted by the term zeta या eta, जिसको हम बोलते हैं. This is the symbolic representation for determination of zeta potential. Now, as I told that particle size is determined by two methods, direct and indirect. Same is the case with zeta potential. It can be determined by indirect method as well as direct method. The mechanism is electrokinetic or electroosmosis. These are the two words which we have to remember for zeta potential: electrokinetic and electroosmosis. Coming to the range of zeta potential, that what should be the range of zeta potential of any of the sample? The range is from minus 10 millivolt to plus 10 millivolt, and for moving on the stable side it should be between plus 30 millivolt to minus 30 millivolt. Means if our formulation is stable under various conditions of stability studies, the zeta potential ranges from plus 30 to minus 30 MV, which means millivolt, and it is the unit of zeta potential. Now, what is the cuvette which is used for determination of zeta potential? So this is the cuvette which is displayed in the diagram, and it is called omega cuvette. This is the cuvette which contains two gold electrode at the tip. The solvent is poured from one side. There should be no air bubble when the sample filling is done. After that, this cuvette is placed into the machine. Protocols or the conditions are maintained and the number of runs are decided. For particle size, minimum number of run can be 5 or 10, but in case of zeta potential, the minimum number of runs which is required in any machine is 50 to 100. It takes 100 run for a single sample to equilibrate and give the results. Now, how it is measured? Zeta potential is measured by adding a solution to a cell that contains two gold electrode. Important point here is that why is zeta potential done? Zeta potential is done to know the stability of our formulation, whether it is stable or not. With time duration as per ICH guidelines, we have to conduct the zeta potential of our sample every month, followed from 0 day, 30 days, 60 days and 90 days. If there is minor changes in the zeta potential, it is acceptable, but if the changes are very major, then we can say that our formulation is not stable. The principle behind determining zeta potential: in particle size, it was dynamic light scattering. In case of zeta potential, it is called electrokinetic method or electrokinetic method. In particle size, we have studied about the Stokes-Einstein law. In case of zeta potential, we have to work on the Henry's law. This is the Henry's equation which is used for the calculation of zeta potential. Factors which are going to affect the zeta potential of any sample or solution. First is change in the pH of sample leads to difference in the zeta potential. Second, the conductivity of the solution also matters in determining the zeta potential. And last is the concentration of the sample or the additives which we are using. Another term which is related to both particle size and zeta is PDI, which is called polydispersity index, or it is also abbreviated as PI, and the full form is polydispersity index. What actually it is? As I told that our sample contains number of particles. So these particles will be heterogeneous in nature. That is called polydispersity index. It is the measure of heterogeneity of a sample based on its size. And its range is that it should be always less than 1. Here I have mentioned that for monodispersed sample, the polydispersity index should be less than 0.05, and for multi or heterogeneous sample, the polydispersity index should be less than 0.7. There is no unit of polydispersity index. It is just a numerical value which is denoted. It is a unitless quantity. Now again there is a formula for calculating the polydispersity index. It is calculated by the molecular weight, average, and the number average molecular weight. There is no need to calculate by this method because once we run the sample in our machine, we'll get the simultaneous results of size and PDI. Zeta potential is again done separately. This is the diagram of the machine which is available in our institute. The machine is called Light Sizer 500. 500 here it means that 5 parameters can be determined using one single machine. And the software or the company from which it has been purchased is called Anton Par. The name is displayed on the upper right side, Anton Par, and the model is Light Sizer 500. This company sells the product with their logo that particle analysis at the touch of a button, means by using a single button we can analyze 5 parameters simultaneously. The another model of this company is Light Sizer 100, which means we can run or determine only one parameter. Here we are using 500, which means 5 parameters can be determined one after other, not simultaneously. First we will determine particle size, uske baad zeta, uske baad the other are refractive index, the next is molecular weight, and the last is transmittance. These are the 5 parameters which can be determined in our machine. This is the description of the protocol or the conditions which are to be maintained while running the sample on our machines. First is the specification for particle size, second one is for zeta potential, third is for determination of molecular weight, fourth is for transmittance, and last is for refractive index. This is all the theoretical part. After this, we'll be moving towards the instrument lab for the practical demonstration. Thank you. If you are having any queries, you can ask.